my favorite chair is taken by a kitty cat again. You can see him right there over my shoulder. But this is where the lighting seems like it's the best. So I was like, well, at least she'll get a cat even if I don't get to be super comfortable. I just finished reading Labyrinth Lost by Zoraida Cordova. This book ended up taking me several months to finish, in part because when I originally started reading it, I was reading it at work, just like during my lunch breaks, so that tends to make for a slower read, just in general. But then quarantine stuff happened, and I got furloughed from work, and I was like, oh, well, I'll finish it real fast, and I just hadn't had a ton of interest in it, and finally got back into it, and have now finished it. Which isn't to say it was a bad book, it was just hard to get engaged sometimes. But yeah, this was an interesting read. It's got a lot of Spanish elements to it. I assume the author is Spanish in some form, whether it be like a Mexican or from Spain kind of ancestry or whatever. But the main plot is about a bruja and her family, and she's gonna have her death day celebration, which is like this magical ceremony where you fully come into your powers and things, but she doesn't want her magical powers, and so she gets into hijinks because she tries to give away her powers and accidentally ends up sending her family into Los Lagos, which is kind of like a purgatory type world, I think would be the closest sort of connection that I would have to what it was. So yeah, it was kind of an interesting little magical adventure. I really loved all the Spanish elements in it. Anything that kind of gives you hints of a culture, even though obviously in this case it was like a fantastical version of a culture, I think are really fun and really interesting. So I enjoyed that a lot. But I did kind of have some issues with the story too, more specifically with how some of the characters were handled. So our main character, Alejandra, has her best friend Rishi, who ends up following her into Los Lagos through just jumping into the portal thing that Alejandra used, but she jumped in after and came in at a different time and stuff and all that. And then Alejandra also made a deal with this boy named Nova, and they like start the adventure together because she and Nova make this deal that she'll pay him for helping her figure out her way through Los Lagos because he has like a map or something. I forget exactly why they bargained for him to come together with her, but they did that. And so it's just kind of this adventuring stuff through this crazy like purgatory type world and all that. And then it was going along great, and they're gonna face off against this evil witch lady called the Devourer, and it's all building up really cool and really interesting. And then they have an encounter with the Devourer where it, spoilers, big old spoilers coming up. It turns out that Nova is actually working with the Devourer and had made a bargain with her so that he could find souls to give her power so that he could be cured of some of his powers. And it was just like, where did this turn come from? And it was really frustrating because it had some build-up of it supposed to be being like a love triangle kind of thing. Rishi definitely shows that she has feelings for Alejandra. Alejandra definitely has feelings for Nova, and Nova seems to have feelings for Alejandra. And then I was kind of wondering leading up to that, oh, are we going to end up like killing off Nova because he's got this thing going on where he didn't have a death day, and so that use of his magic is then slowly killing him. And I was like, oh, is it going to be like some sacrifice thing on his end? He'll like sacrifice his powers and himself, and then she can go off and be with Rishi. And then instead it went that he was like the betrayer route, and I was like, well, this was a stupid turn. I would have liked it better the other way. But beyond that too, I never really bought that Alejandra and Rishi had a romance. Like Rishi, I could tell had feelings for Alejandra. That I could buy. But the feelings that Alejandra showed for Rishi never really hit like the I'm attracted to you sense for me. We definitely got notes of it with her interactions with Nova, she talked about getting that feeling in her chest and those burning feelings of, he's so close to me, I'm so attracted to him. But there was never any of those feelings with her towards Rishi, and so when the book decided that she was going to be with Rishi, I was like, well, I mean, it's not that I technically have anything wrong with it ending up being a girl-on-girl thing, that's fine. She can technically be bi or whatever, but I'm just not buying that you actually had romantic feelings for Rishi from the way it was presented. Rishi definitely likes you that way, but I don't buy that you do. So that was probably my biggest issue with the story, but again, I did love the magical world that was created. I loved reading about, like, the Addas and things. That totally put me in mind of Pan's Labyrinth, which was super fun to kind of get aspects of again, and to have feelings of. The Avianas were really cool, kind of like a Spanish version of a harpy. And so there were a lot of fun, like, creatures and a lot of fun elements. The way the magic was done was very interesting. I just wish that the love triangle-y aspects had been handled better. And also, I kind of wish I hadn't read the epilogue. So, another element to the story, also, again, getting into spoilery stuff, but we've already had spoilers, so anyway. But Alejandra's father disappeared when she was young. She kind of blames herself for his disappearance, and it's kind of this element in the story that she has to overcome throughout. And then I read the epilogue of the book, and Nova had disappeared when they'd all come back through the portal, and then he came back in the epilogue with her father, and that's, like, where the book ends. And I was like, why did you do this? A, why did Nova come back at all? Because Alejandra said that she's not going to forgive him, and B, why did he bring her father back? It kind of seemed like her father had chosen to go, but instead it's like he went and found your father, and he's confused, and he's like, I don't know what happened, but I think you're my family, and that's where it ends. And I was like, no. Don't do this. I think it was probably meant to be kind of like sequel baiting, because I'm pretty sure there is a sequel to this, but I'm not really sure that I'm interested in reading it based on the couple of issues that I had with this story. But overall, I did enjoy it, and if Zoraida Cordova writes anything outside of this series, I might go back to her stuff, because I did enjoy, again, like, the Spanish elements and stuff. I just didn't like all of her execution of character arcs. Especially, okay, going back to the love triangle thing, because I thought of this as we were talking about her father coming back too. But as they're going back from Los Lagos, there's this portal that's going to be closing, and Nova had made his decision that he was going to stay in Los Lagos, and then on top of, you know, her having feelings for him and that being where we've seen all the feelings, Alejandra does grab Nova to pull him back so that he's not punished in Los Lagos, and I don't know what her intent was exactly, but she grabbed him, and then it's like he just disappears, and she's like, oh, I actually love Rishi, and I was like, this is very unsatisfying, it doesn't feel like how actual romance works. So I think that was part of my issue with it too. It's like she chose to pull him back because she still had feelings for him, and yet it's like, nah, we'll just go with the Rishi plotline. I don't know. I just didn't feel like all of the things were resolved very well. But it was very fun, and if you're looking for kind of a different presentation of things, some fantasy stuff in a world that is unique, I would recommend it. It was pretty good overall. It just had those couple elements that I was a little frustrated by, so. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed kind of hearing my thoughts on this, and maybe it'll make you interested in reading it too, or checking out similar books by similar authors. If you have any recommendations of anything similar, or if you know of anything she's written that's outside of this series, I'd be very interested in that. So leave any comments of that down below. But that's all I've got to say for now. This is the Umlaut Harper, signing out.